Yes! We are going once again. You know what to do here on the Gloss America YouTube channel. Hit like, hit subscribe, turn on your notifications, and let's get after it. Hi, hello, and welcome to your favorite Average to Good podcast. Call it what you want. I'm Jimmy Conrad alongside Tony Meola and Charlie Davies, and we have a great show planned for you today because we finally have another game to look forward to as the U.S. take on South Korea this weekend. So a couple days away. We're going to break down the roster. We're going to break down South Korea, our expectations, our hopes, our dreams, and all that good stuff. But for everybody that doesn't get to join us before the show, Big Tones is flexing with his kits. You know, we always have tradition here. He has one, the last ever jersey that the Soviet Union wore. Was that a goalkeeper jersey, Tones, where it said CCCB?
Yeah, let me put. Yeah, so this is the night. Hold on, let me get it open. So if you remember,
it's so cute. Goalies exchanging jerseys with each other. So, it's so cute.
Tell me that's not cool.
I have some issues with the design, but ultimately, the fact that you have it, I mean, there can only be a handful of people that have that kit. That's unbelievable.
I'm thinking that kit. I'm the only one who has that kit in the world. There's other field player jerseys. Remember, if you remember the night we played, there was the coup that night, and we were stuck in the Kremlin. The national team was stuck in the Kremlin for 3 days.
What was that like?
Leave.
What did you do?
What was that like?
Well, it was really peaceful, but we had no idea that the government had taken over the president's office and cut the phone lines and all that stuff. So that was the night before. As we were driving back after the game, I can't believe we're talking about this, but as we're driving back after the game, there was thousands of tanks going into the Kremlin, and we just thought it was like a nightly, like a weekly movement. So we were going in with the tanks, and we went to our hotel, and then we were supposed to go to Austria the next day. We had no idea what was going on. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have any of that stuff. So our families couldn't get in touch with us. And yeah, it's crazy. But anyway, you guys were talking about jerseys before, and I was flipping through, and I'm like, that's
incredible.
Nice one.
Oh, the story's incredible too.
So Tony's a Russian spy is what we're getting here.
No, don't put that out.
Yay, sleeper cell.
So wait. So Big Toe, did you win that game or what happened?
I think we lost 1-0 in that game. 1-0 in that game. So that was their last game.
Give the jersey back. We were supposed to go in there and stomp on them, Big Tones.
No, but hey, this is a Soviet Union jersey.
I know. That's
crazy. It's crazy, right?
Yeah,
that should be in a museum. I'm just throwing it out there. And
well, Jimmy, it's not quite in a museum, but behind me here in my wall, it's in a bin in the garage.
Hey, that's a great spot for it.
It's my jersey museum.
I love it. All right, let's get into it. So the first item of news, Chuck, we're gonna U.S. have announced another opponent in November, and it's Uruguay. Marcelo Bielsa.
Hey, what did I say?
Mauricio Pochettino's.
They're again South American opponents. Did I not tell you this?
You maybe did. Refresh our memories. What did you tell us?
They're getting 2 South American opponents in the November window.
Sorry, it's being reported. I meant to put my air quotes up. Reported that we're playing Uruguay in November.
But I told you it was going to be Uruguay, Brazil, Argentina, some combination of 2 of the 3.
And this is one of his footballing fathers. That's what Mauricio Pochettino calls Marcelo Bielsa. So Mauricio Pochettino has 20 caps for the Argentinian national team. All of them were given to him by Marcelo Bielsa. Had him at Newell's Old Boys, had him at Espanyol. I mean, this is his guy. So I'm not surprised that he got to book him as an opponent. I'm excited about it. But a little redemption here, Big Tones, right? After they knocked us out of the Copa America.
Yeah, and I think what do we want to see? We want to see good opponents, right? We've been arguing for years that we haven't been able to because of what's happened in Nations League in Europe and with World Cup qualifying in South America. It's been really difficult to get opponents. So we've seen Panama 300 times and Mexico like 800 times, and we want to see somebody different, right? You want to challenge yourself. So this is an incredible opponent, and I'm excited. And I think this list here. It's starting to look better by the day.
I'm telling you right now, already South Korea and Japan, I love those fixtures.
Yeah.
Those are 2 quality sides. We already said that. Ecuador, another one, quality. Australia is one of those like sneaky good international sides.
They're going to make you earn it. Yeah, Australia make you earn it.
So far, so good. I've already said I love this, but can we afford? I know we've beat this, dead horse a million times, but can we afford to let some of these friendlies go by the wayside by experimenting and bringing in all these new faces, as opposed to bringing your strongest group, period? Okay, you might have a few guys that have popped up out of nowhere. Maybe there's a dual national that says, you know what, Pochettino, you convinced me, I'm in. But let's get going with this group.
Yeah, but he did come out and say that this was the last window he was going to let that happen. So,
I know.
We'll see. There's also reports that it's going to be another South American opponent along with Uruguay in the November window. So very curious to see, because we already have Ecuador in October. Who are we going to get in November?
But between you guys, who would you rather see, Argentina or Brazil?
I want Argentina
or Colombia. Of the three, Argentina, Brazil, Colombia.
I would take all three of those.
Colombia. I would put Colombia last. I'd flip a coin between Argentina and Brazil. I'll see either of them. Argentina, that's like the sexier of the matchups and all that stuff. But Brazil, that's a pretty sexy matchup too.
It is on paper. Yeah. Brazil, I think, still trying to establish an identity a little bit under Carlo Ancelotti. But Argentina has their identity. So to try to break down a team that is one of the favorites of the World Cup, not to say that Brazil's not, but I think that I would take Argentina in a heartbeat. That would be sick. Now we're going to really find out what kind of group we got on our hand.
And Ecuador, Ecuador is still ahead of Argentina. I'm still ahead of Brazil and Colombia. Argentina's first in CONMEBOL, but Ecuador's in second place in CONMEBOL right now, right? And they've been an up-and-coming team for the last 5 or 6 years. So they're no slouch anymore. At least this cycle of players is not. But, yeah, you'd take any of those. There you go. There's the qualifying groups. Ecuador is a massive opponent.
Yeah, it's a huge opponent. I want to say also that there's only 2 games remaining left in World Cup qualifying in CONMEBOL. It started back 2 years ago in September 2023, and now they're finishing up their last window this week. So right now, for Uruguay to officially stamp their ticket for the 2026 World Cup, I believe they just need to draw against Peru today or tonight for kickoff. A win at home. They should beat Peru. Peru's near the bottom of the table, but I think a draw would be enough to see them through. And Chuck is on mute.
6 teams get guaranteed compensation. Qualification.
Six guaranteed spots, and then 7th, which is Venezuela currently, which probably might sit there. Bolivia's on 17 points. Venezuela's on 18. You go into the Interconfederations playoffs. So 6 automatically get in. Colombia kind of dropped off a bit, but it's pretty tight between 2nd and 6th, or 3 points separate all those teams. So it should
give me Brazil. I want Ancelotti.
You want
Brazil.
him? Okay.
Exciting news. They're trying to figure it out. We're trying to figure it out, quote unquote. Let's go.
All right.
We're mad at who our national team coach is calling in. You should see what's going on in Brazil right now. He's calling everybody from the league and no Neymar, and he basically came out and said, well, but he should have said, hey, look what Neymar's done over the last 2 years. Nothing. That's why I'm not calling him in. He said everything but that in his press conference. So, man, they are roasting him right now, Ancelotti.
I'm sure he loves that. From one pressure cooker from Real Madrid to another with the Brazilian national team. All right, another bit of news for the U.S. men's national team. Cristian Roldan, fresh off of a terrific summer, both in the Club World Cup and the Leagues Cup and MLS, been Seattle Sounders best player, gets called into the team. He's got 37 caps in his career. He last played for the U.S. in the 2023 Gold Cup semifinal. So it's been a while. He was named in the 2022 World Cup roster, along with 7 other guys that are in this camp. And he did not play in the World Cup, but he was there. He's won 2 Gold Cups and got a ton of experience. Are you surprised, though? Chuck, I'll come to you. Are you surprised that Roldan's being added at this point, already a couple days late behind the rest of the group? Obviously, he was playing in the Leagues Cup final against Inter Miami, but I mean, he's a known quantity, I suppose.
In terms of a player who's going to get an opportunity, if you're giving out opportunities for people who haven't played under Pochettino, I'm not surprised that Roldan gets that look, because look at what he's been able to do with the Seattle Sounders for year after year after year. Remember, in 2022, when he's called into that World Cup team, people are like, what the hell is he doing there? Right? This was 2022, where you could say he was in his prime. I'd say now he's probably one of the most dependable, consistent MLS guys. What he does, his work rate. But remember, he was brought into that 2022 World Cup squad because of the teammate that he is. When you need a number of those guys in the locker room who are showing up every day, who are holding people accountable in training, who are going to bring that positivity with them every single day, almost like, hey, I'm grateful to be here. Remember that gratitude has to be a part of this. I think that's one of those guys that you say, man, maybe he can still add that to this group. Maybe there's a position, a spot for that. Now, is he better than, let's say the top 5 players in midfield for the U.S. men's national team? No. But what he brings to that group every day, I think there's a lot of value in that. So I'm not surprised that Pochettino brought him in if you are giving these MLS guys a look.
All right. Tones?
Yeah. So a couple things to add to that. One, remember in his first stint with the national team or last stint with the national team, he was looked at as a winger. Right, he's now playing as a deeper lying midfielder in the group, and he has been Seattle's best player the entire season, bar none. He's been the best player at the Club World Cup. With all of that said, I don't know if anyone else heard on the broadcast the other night. Somebody, and I can't remember if it was in studio or if it was Taylor and Zach Zivin, said that he was playing the entire game injured. So he's been on an ankle injury. So that part surprises me a little bit. But I am not surprised, and I know I've read online, why don't we call Aiden Morris or Tanner Tessman or whoever you want to insert there. I'm not surprised at this point he didn't call a guy from Europe to come here, right? 3 days into camp. Because then you got a day where you got to rest. That guy's almost going to miss one game, right, already. In the camp where Christian Roldan is local, he clearly was on some list to see. So there's a lot of things that up. I'm with you, Charlie. I don't know that he's better than Aiden Morris or any of those guys. I think it was a more convenient call, even though it is across the country, but it's a little bit easier than flying from Europe. And plus, who knows? Some of those guys, they may have already made plans. They may have had 3 or 4 days off during the first part of the break, and your coach sends you away. So what do? A guy you call, I'm making it up. You call Aiden Morris and said, "No, we have 3 days off. I took a vacation with somebody, and now you're going to leave the vacation." So there's other things to think about.
Oh no, hell no! Because Tony, I remember there were times where when I was coming back from the car accident, and I'm training, and then international break happens. So now I'm that guy who doesn't go to international break. I'm one of the.
Where'd you go?
Rome. It's 4 days in Rome. Went to Barcelona, Rome. These and I'm going with my wife. Part of it was like, man, this is what happens when you don't go to international break. That's not so bad, Hey, coach gives so. Yeah, that's what's happening. You take advantage of those days that you get off to disconnect.
They all do. Everybody does. Yeah. I mean, the Sounders. The Sounders. We were told yesterday. I did an interview yesterday. The Sounders have 4 days off. Those guys because they haven't had a break. So it happens in Europe. So most guys get out of town. They get out of Dodge, right? So I'm not surprised that it's Christian Roldan. I know you can tell me it's the same flight from one place to the other, but Christian is getting ready still. He just played the night before. They call him. I just think if they had him on the list to trial him, this is the time because Jimmy, we talked about it. Come October, we got to see whoever it is. Then we got to back that group, right? Those are the guys we're going with.
No question. I think what's interesting about Roldan being called in a couple days after camp started is Mauricio Pochettino seeing something with this current group, like, we need another guy in this area of the field. But when I looked at who we called in initially, Tyler Adams, Sebastian Berhalter, Luca De La Torre,
Zawadzki,
McGlynn. Yeah, he's clearly seeing something and going, let's see what he looks like amongst the group. No.
I'll tell you right now, you don't need another midfielder in this group.
Well,
you don't.
You don't. Well, if you're really looking at players, Chuck, right? I mean, he's seen McGlynn. Zawadzki would be a new entity for him, right? But clearly, if you're thinking, I'm going to look to bring in another player and get my roster up to 24, 25.
No, but what I'm saying is depth-wise, you don't need another midfielder. Especially within this roster. Within this roster, you have Nobody on the wings. The same thing as Gold Cup. We go back to Gold Cup. It's a million midfielders. That's the depth. That's the strength of this U.S. men's national team is your midfield. You have a number of quality players in that midfield. You don't necessarily know what's the right, grouping of that midfield. You don't know, okay, in terms of how Pochettino wants to play. If he wants to play his 4-2-3-1, where he's always played in every club team, that's been his preferred system. Who are those, three central midfielders? You don't know in terms of where he wants to go, what those ideal three are. We don't. But in terms of this group, if you said, hey, we got one player to bring in, what position do you think you need? It's not a midfielder, especially a central midfielder, box-to-box player. Absolutely not. You look at the wide areas. You got Weah, you got Christian, you got Zendejas, and then Diego Luna, who's been played there now. That's the weakness, right? Left back, we have Arfson. That's it. There is no other option.
Well, you
got three right backs. Dest is a right back. Dest, Freeman, Harriel, right? You got three right backs.
Right.
One left back who's a makeshift left back because he's a left wing back. And then you got four center backs. So that's the area, the thinnest part of the roster. But in terms of guys who deserve a look with performances, it's Roldan. So I'm not surprised in that sense because of his consistency, because of his engine, and like Tony said, how he showed his quality with the Sounders.
So I wonder if Roldan was always maybe on the radar, but then they were just trying to monitor him based on how healthy he was, how he performed in the Leagues Cup final, and once he did well, and the Sounders won, and he said, "Hey, I'm good enough to go. I can come into camp." Then maybe the decision was made. I'm just wondering if it was just Pochettino watching, going, "God damn, who's that guy with Messi in his back pocket?" Is it, and that's why that was the impetus for bringing him in, or was that already pre-planned? It feels like it already had a conversation about it. But I wonder if you just slot him right into the team. If he gets slots right into it and starts in this game, then I have some questions of the other guys on the roster because you're not training very well. You're not absorbing the concepts of Pochettino and his staff. But
we can make an argument, right? First, I don't think he was on the roster on the radar. Prior to this season, like it was just there was no way. But he's had a great season. But we can make an argument. He's been as good as Sebastian Berhalter, as good as Luca Della Torre, as good as Jack McGlynn in the midfield, and as good as Sean Zawadzki.
Yeah.
Right, in the midfield. So we can make that argument. When you're talking about this roster, I get people might not want him on the full roster. These I say all the time, I'd love when you bring like one guy in each group or two guys, like in two defenders, in one midfielder, one forward. Like these sort of mixed rosters always scare me, man, because rarely do you see these groups come together and be cohesive. And that's why I think we'll find out next roster which ones of the guys, we'll call them fringe players, if you will, that Pochettino really believes in, because it's so much easier to assess them when they're playing with, quote unquote, the first team, right? But at this point, we don't really know what the first team is at this point. So we might be really shocked in October when that list comes out.
Well, I feel validated, Big Tones, that Carlo Ancelotti is going through the same process.
Oh, he's getting hammered,
and he's getting hammered for it.
The only difference for Carlo is when you look at Brazil's roster. How many Brazilians are playing in Europe and playing consistently? And if they're not the star of their team, they're counted on in terms of goal contributions or just that impact, the influence within the game. So he's familiar. How many Brazilians has he played against in La Liga? Not one that he already had, but two that he plays against and sees regularly. When he was in Italy, when he plays in Champions League with Real Madrid, he sees them all the time. So there's a good understanding of the Brazilians out there. But domestically, similar to Pochettino, you're not familiar with maybe how they're brought up, the talent that's there, the homegrowns, if you will. And that's where it takes time. And Pochettino and Ancelotti don't have time. There is no time. You got to come up with your A squad now. And so the experimenting is frustrating for a lot of fans because, a 30-year-old Roldan, for instance, Major League Soccer, we've seen him for a long time. He was with the Gold Cup in 23. This isn't a new player. Like he's already been tested, experimented, and you've kind of seen his level. But here he is consistently in Major League Soccer doing his thing. And now Pochettino says, well, you may have all seen him, but I haven't. So I'm going to call him up and give him a look.
Okay. I just want to say this before we go to break. I want us to play Brazil. I've been convinced. I want us to play Brazil after Uruguay in the November window. Let's call it the experimental derby. We'll have our best experimental starting 11 versus Brazil's best experimental starting 11. And whoever wins gets a spot on the World Cup roster.
Jimmy, quick.
Can you imagine like Hunger Games for our roster spots in the World Cup?
Quick count here. I think it's 12 guys with 2 caps or less, the majority with 0 for Brazil, and 15 or 16 guys with 5 caps or less for Brazil. That's who Carl. And then, of course, he's got Casemiro, Paquetá, Guimarães, like guys like that. And Richarlison, Rafinha. But then the rest of the team, I think that's what people are up in arms about in Brazil. So I guess September is the experiment month.
We're
it's experimenting.
Proper footballing nation now.
Throw them out there.
Proper footballing nation.
Just let's go at them, man.
We made it. All right, we're going to take our first break and call what you want. When we come back, we got a special guest, John Shin, coming on to break it all down, everything that we need to know about South Korea. So keep it right
let's
here.
go.
Let's go.
The clock never stops. Relive the greatest moments with uninterrupted highlights and more.
It's Gareth Bale. Wonderful goal.
On the UEFA Champions League channel. Streaming free.
Welcome back in to Call What You Want. I'm Conrad alongside Chuck Wagon, chasing Chuck Wagon, and Big Tones. And listen, we think we're pretty smart guys. At times. Average to good in terms of intelligence, all things considered. So sometimes if we want to get a little bit more insight, we bring on some experts, and we have one, a longtime friend of mine from New York City, John Shin, also known as Good Vibes John. John Shin, welcome to the show.
Wait, hold on. I don't know if the soundboard works, but I'm gonna.
Wow. There we go.
Hey,
this
different level.
This is another level.
Another level. I love the backdrop, even though I don't like that you're competing with me because I like my backdrop. But John, great to see you as always. And how excited are you to see the South Korean team in action, given that they've already qualified for the World Cup and maybe similar to the U.S. and Brazil, like we were talking about earlier, tinkering with their roster a little bit to figure out who their best players are going to be ahead of the World Cup or going into the World Cup?
Now I'm super excited. First of all, on a personal level, I'm super excited because this is going to be my first time in all these years to be able to watch the South Korean national team in person, all these years. Yeah. So on a personal level, I'm super excited because I'm also going to be attending the matches, of course, the first one here at the MetLife against USA. But the qualifying early and getting that out of the way is obviously great, but I think it's very important for Coach Hong Min-bo and the squad right now to figure out and tinker how can we make adjustments to this squad? How can we bring on certain personnel, especially, for example, I'm sure we're going to talk about a little bit later, like Hwang Hee-chan, Hwang In-bum, these players that are key assets for the team, but won't be available. What's going to be our plan B? What's going to be our plan C? Because rarely nothing really goes 100% to your plan, so we got to kind of figure out these other options and other variables. And I think these games are going to be just as important for South Korea as it is going to be for the USA.
Just a note, don't head over to MetLife. I'd go to Sports Illustrated Stadium if I were you to watch this one. Just listen, I want you to be in the right place. That's all. And no big deal.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I've been at the MetLife for like the entire summer with the Club World Cup. I just had MetLife Neds.
You can park over there and take a train. Do what you got to do. No. So where is this South Korean side? Obviously, I remember vividly 2002 and how good that team was. It seemed like that was the pinnacle of a cycle for them, and a little bit of home field, which certainly benefited them. Where are they in their cycle right now?
It's been lots of ebbs and flows, ups and downs. I think South Korean fans, if you ask them now, like, how do you feel, especially post Jurgen Klinsmann era, they'll just all go, that's literally the best way to describe it. I don't know, with the greatest respect, because I think South Korean fans, to a relative degree, I think they're a little bit confused as to how they feel, really. It's just because, obviously, with the talent that we have coming up, the experienced veterans, the young bucks coming up, we should be excited, right? On paper, we should be. But when we're looking at all the chaos that's been going on surrounding Jurgen Klinsmann, his exit, bringing on Coach Hong-Myung-bo, and everything that's just kind of sort of like been plastered in front of us. We're just kind of not too sure in that sense. But I think the upside to it, if I may, as a fan watching what's been going on, at least the vibes are in repair. And I think those things are very important steps in terms of building, not just from a squad perspective, squad morale, but also from a fan's perspective. You want to have that optimistic approach going into the World Cup.
John, I think this is important. Before I ask you the question, I want to just set the standard for pronunciations, because there's a lot of people within the comments, and also when you hear them, people don't know, is it Heung-min Son? Is it Son Heung-min? Is it Park Ji-sung? Is it Ji-sung Park? Can you break down the pronunciation of South Korean names?
Sure. So, for example, we'll take Son Heung-min, for example. Son is his surname. In sort of Western, or let's just for our sake, American culture, you put the surname at the end, which is why it's Heung-min Son. But for me, it's not that big of a difference for me. As long as, you're giving it the shot, Son Heung-min Son, I'm not necessarily one to argue too much. From my perspective as a South Korean, I feel it my sort of duty, or it's only right for me that I address him as Son Heung-min, because that's just how we address him as. And I have no problem with folks calling him Heung-min Son or Son Heung-min. It's not really that much. But in Korean culture, or from a Korean perspective, you would call him Son Heung-min, Park Ji-sung, and so on and so forth.
So you pronounce the surname first.
Correct.
In South Korean. So, all right. So, but they don't take offense. There's nothing. Okay, cool. All right. My second question now is,
okay. Wait. Go ahead and ask your second question, Davies, Charlie.
Thank you. Is undefeated World Cup qualifying. What are the real expectations for South Korea in this World Cup? Because we're trying to gauge, obviously this is an important friendly for both South Korea and the United States, but what are the expectations next summer? How far do you think it is possible to go?
See, this is where I get a little sort of, iffy, because Coach Hong-Myung-bo came out and he was like, we have everything to make it to the round of 8. We have everything. We have the quality. We have the team. We have the depth. I, as a fan, am a bit skeptical in that sense. I want to sit here and tell all of you gentlemen, we're going to make it. You know what I mean? But I would be very happy if we made it to the round of 16. I think getting out of the group stages and making it to the 16 is for me, the priority. We want to make sure we're kind of, fighting, at least from the perspective of a fan that I believe has the quality to make it out of the group stages, either as winners or runner-ups or whatever it may be. And I strongly do believe that we can make it out of the group stages this time around. So I'm super excited in that sense. But the optimism from Coach Hong-Myung-bo, while it is valid, it does bring up a little bit of the, and that's why I was saying before, it's like Korean fans are like, it's like everything feels right now.
I feel like we're around that. No?
Yeah, that's a familiar feeling, John. You tap into something that we're also experiencing at this moment. Let's talk though about Son Heung-min, because is he still the guy for the team? Are they still building around him? Obviously a special talent. We're excited to see him continue to perform for LAFC, but I know there are some other players, you said some young bucks that are maybe ready to take on more responsibility. How much of a factor do you think he plays in terms of the success of South Korea, not only against us this upcoming weekend, but into the World Cup as well?
It's a tricky one. It's a very tricky one, because for Coach Hong-Myung-bo, he needs to figure out how he's going to transition this team post-Sonny era, right? And for Son Heung-min, he has probably been, if I may speak on behalf of all South Korean fans, he has probably been the greatest thing since sliced bread for South Korean fans. He has been absolutely the shining light of everything with respect to South Korea.
Bigger than Ji-sung Park?
This is I don't know if we're going to do this right now. I don't know if we have enough time, but
well, that's your favorite player of all time. We should just get that out in front.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
Hey, Park Ji-sung was a legend, bro.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if I may, just real quick, I think Park opened the doors for a lot of South Korean and Asian footballers to sort of make their way and ease their way into Europe, the greatest stage on world football, in many football fans' views. And Son Heung-min came into the stage. He came out with his shoulders and he said, you know what? We can ball too. You know what I mean? And that's what we love about Sonny. He didn't just go there with his head down and go, we'll work hard, high work rate. We'll, like what Park did. It was more about, no, I'm going to win the golden boot. No, I'm going to do these things. And that's why South Korean fans have and Asian fans in general have such a high regard and love for Son Heung-min. But in terms of the national team, Coach Hong recently came out and they were asking him, they're like, they were asking about his captaincy. And he came out and he was like, he may be captain, he may not be captain.
Whoa.
And that was some, woo.
Well, from Klinsmann, we had him on the show, and he did say Lee Kang-in and Son Heung-min had a big bust up, like a fist fight, and he didn't know how to deal with that. So what has transpired since then? Are they cool? Can they be in the same room? Is there a respect?
Of course. And that all that got nipped in the bud very early on. And obviously it's something that none of us wanted to see, and it was very disappointing to hear, but these things happen. Lee Kang-in is a very young player. He's got lots of potential. And you also have to understand that a lot of these players, if we're just speaking from a cultural sense, Korean culture and the way that Korean culture, and in comparison to, I guess, quote unquote, Western culture, is very different. So the upbringing for a lot of these players, Lee Kang-in spent all of his years in the La Liga side. So he spent his early days in Spain. He played in Valencia, Mallorca, and he grew up very differently. And a lot of these players, they're all Korean, but they're all coming from different upbringings, different backgrounds, and there might be clashes, there might be problems. But at the end of the day, the biggest concern for me is, can they address it? And I'd like to think that, yes, while it was disappointing, it was addressed. And I'm proud of both of them, and I'm proud of the way that they handled it. But in terms of Coach Hong's problem is, how do we address this? And I'd like to think he kind of tested the waters. He kind of sprinkled and he said, we'll see if he's going to be captain or not. And then it came back with a bit of backlash, because South Korean fans were like, you didn't have to speak like that. You could have just been like, oh, maybe, there's a team of great leaders in this squad. It could be Son, and we could potentially have Son integrate these other young leaders into becoming the next guy. He could have spoken sort of that way, but he kind of just came out and was like, he could be captain, he might not be. We have no idea. So I think that came back, and it kind of played into his favor, because now Coach Hong-min knows, like, maybe it's not the right time. He still, I believe, has everything in his system to lead this team, and he 110% should be there. And Charlie, you were asking, I can't remember if it was Jimmy. Is he the guy that we need to build this team around? World Cup 2026, I still believe that he needs to be the focal point, 100%. He might not need to be playing 95 minutes, but he still needs to be the focal point to a certain degree.
MLS likes to hear that, Tony.
Yeah. You keep using sort of the term like about this team, right? When Jimmy asked you about post Jurgen Klinsmann, it's like well, it sounds to me like, and I know you're good vibes, Johnny, right? Like I get it, but it sounds to me like there's reason to be excited about this group, right? That there's an opportunity for them to do something special. And that's I know that's what you're hoping for, but why so? Is it because Jurgen Klinsmann's time ended the way that it did there, or are they just not seeing what the advancement that they want to see?
I think a lot of the quote unquote comes from the idea that Coach Hong Myung-bo and the way that he was rehired. Remember, this is his second stint as the South Korean manager. The way that he was rehired, he was doing a very good job at Ulsan HD before taking the job. And Coach Hong Myung-bo was like, in the beginning, he was like, I don't know if I want to take that job again. And, I'd understand from his perspective, his first stint didn't really go as, many people expected. He was having a great time domestically in the K-League. And then all of a sudden, now he does a U-turn and goes, I'm going to take the job again. So South Korean fans are like, what are we doing here? You know what I mean? KFA, what are we doing? And that's where the comes from. I don't necessarily think it's sort of derived or brought up from the squad side of things. Obviously, the Sonny versus Lee Kang-in situation maybe played a part in it, but I think it's just everything kind of compiled together into this overall. But like I said, I'm the optimist. I would love to see this side, and I wholeheartedly believe that there is enough quality and potential in this side to do some special bits here.
So I'm curious, John, when you're looking at this game, I'm excited to see it. We look at our roster and we go, man, we're pretty thin at left back. When Anthony Robinson's not there, man, there's a big hole, and we're gonna go with Max Arfson. We're gonna throw him out there. We look at the midfield. There's a lot of new guys, inexperienced at the top level, and our center forwards, we really haven't had them. They've been injured, and so we've been kind of try by fire. Where do you see the weaknesses of this South Korea side? What parts of the field
give us the secrets so we know how to beat these guys on Saturday. That's what we need, John. What are we waiting for? Just give us the secrets.
It's good context for fans who are watching who said, of course. South Korea is not strong here, so maybe there should be an advantage for the U.S. men's national team.
We want secrets.
Look, honestly, personally, I wish we were a little bit stronger at the back, but I think a lot of the conversation goes around what are we going to do now without the likes of, for example, Hwang In-beom. Obviously, a lot of fans that might not be so knowledgeable on the South Korean side of things, they look at the big names like your Son Heung-min, your Lee Gang-in, your Kim Min-jae of Bayern Munich. They're looking at the big stars. But for me, Lee Jae-sung of Mainz, Hwang In-beom of Feyenoord, these two players are
former MLS player, Hwang In-beom, huh?
Yeah, these players have such an integral, important part to play in this squad. And Hwang In-beom is not a part of this team because he just picked up a knock early on in August. And now we're going to have to figure out how do we sort of operate without him. That's where I'm concerned about in midfield, because now we're going to have to play with I guess a blend of experience versus youth, but is it the same level of quality that we have if we have Hwang In-beom for example? I really feel like the midfield is where we show a little bit of that undervalued strength. And now without an important player like Hwang In-beom, how do we operate? And I spoke before, Coach Hong Myung-mo needs to figure out, how do we figure out what our plan B is if we don't have our plan A? Hwang In-beom is that plan A.
Yeah, he's a string puller, and I feel like he might be underrated and how he can break down teams. So I'm excited to see how we can take advantage of that potentially. Okay, last question before we let you go. And John Chin, we appreciate your time. Drop him a follow at Good Vibes John on any of the social media platforms. What's your prediction for this game? How do you think it's going to play out? And if it's not a U.S. win, I don't think we can have you on the show anymore.
I think it's gonna be gritty. I think it's gonna be lots of back and forth. I think Tony mentioned that it might be like I can't remember who it was. I keep forgetting. It was a battle of the in some ways, right? And
yeah,
I think both teams are testing the waters out. How do we figure out and translate our depth into potentially leading into the World Cup? And for me, it's either going to be a 1-0 game or it's going to be a slugfest. I would love to see a slugfest. I'm going to go for a South Korea win. Come on.
Okay.
John, John, can you explain really quick your wall? Really quick?
Sure.
Do you mind?
Yeah. So real quick, I just want to start off here. Conrad Dino.
Oh, baby.
My legend. Right. I can't point whichever. That's my legend. It's a collection of South Korean jerseys over the years. I mean, over there, the 2002 An Jung-won, one of the heroes of the 2000 World Cup.
Nice.
Son Heung-min. Yeah, Son Heung-min. This is actually his first ever, I think, South Korea major spotlight when he represented Korea in the Asian Cup. He was ranked number 11. And of course, that's my hero, Ji-sung Park, Park Ji-sung. And yeah. Oh, and there's also a signed shirt by the entire South Korean squad.
Dang.
It's a lot. I don't want to take too much of your time, but it's a lot.
No, it's great.
No.
John Chin, everybody. No longer allowed on the show after predicting South Korea is going to beat us this weekend. We appreciate you. Again, drop them a follow. Good Vibes John on all the social media platforms. And we're going to take our last break of the show. When we come back, we'll break down how we see things for the U.S. men's national team, including our predicted starting 11. So keep it right here.
Only CBS Sports can bring you big time during the heart of Saturday afternoons.
It's big time.
It's big time. It's big time. It's big time.
On CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.
I think when you typically think of kind of the Asian teams, you think of them being well-disciplined, and that's something that, we not maybe lack in CONCACAF. We when you think of CONCACAF opponents, you think of kind of more of like a wild side. So I think being able to play these kind of teams like South Korea and Japan are really going to test just how disciplined we are, because you have to be just as disciplined. So, I think they're already qualified for the World Cup, so it's a team that's proven in their region. And again, it's just another chance to play a big team and to win another game. So we try not to look too much into it, but we understand that the World Cup draw, you can get anybody. So we're trying to get as many experiences as possible leading into it.
All right, you're hearing from Chris Richards, what I expect starting center back for the U.S. men's national team, coming off a great Gold Cup. And those are his thoughts on Morning Footy earlier today. Good interview from John Chin. Let's talk, though, about our squad, boys. What do we say? What do we think? Who's going to start for us this weekend? We have options. We got a lot of options, including Christian Roldan, who's now in the mix. And so let's do this. Let's go line by line. Let's hear from our resident goalkeeper, Big Tones, Tony Meola. Who are you starting in this game? Because you have three options that are pretty wide. I mean, Matt Freese, Celentano, and Jonathan Klinsmann. Who are you leaning?
Yeah, I think you have to start Matt Freese, right? Because then you basically gave him the starting jersey, and now you come into camp again. I think he's got to get a start in the first one. I think this, of all the positions, is the no-brainer position.
All right. Okay, back line's my turn, Chuck. Sorry, I'm keeping the mic, I should say. Because we only have one left back, I feel like Max Arfston is going to get the run out there on the left side. I'd be really surprised if he didn't go with Ream and Richards. in this particular instance, and then Dest is going to be the right back for sure. There's undoubtedly the right back. I think what I'm most excited about is because this is his first time with Mauricio Pochettino. How is he going to be utilized, especially in the buildup? Right, we've seen before when Anthony Robinson was healthy against Jamaica. We've talked about this game a lot, where he inverted him, so we played a bit of a 3-2. And so I'm curious because Dest has got the capabilities to be, well, we already know, super dynamic going forward. So I'm curious about how he's going to be utilized. What are you seeing in the midfield, Chuck? Who do you like in our kind of middle three?
No, you guys can go midfield too. I'll go.
All right. You can take the front three. All right, Tones. Who do you think on midfield? I mean, Adams is in for sure. I think Luna will be in the midfield.
I think Tyler Adams is in. Diego Luna certainly is in. And then he gave for me, it's either between they list McGlynn as a midfielder, so it's either between McGlynn and Sebastian Berhalter. I don't know that Zawadzki gets a start, and that would be it. Christian Roldan would be the other one. Yeah, so
Della Torre as well.
Yeah, Della Torre, but I see him more in Luna spot, right? So I'm putting Luna sort of on that left side, Berhalter or McGlynn on the, if he uses McGlynn there. I think he's going to.
I honestly think you're not bringing in Roldan just to hang out. I think he might start this first one. Maybe he starts.
Then he would start for Berhalter. Then he would probably start
Roldan,
there for
Luna,
Berhalter.
and Adams. But it could be Berhalter and Adams and Luna. That's kind of how I see it, or we see it. Of course. Okay, Chuck, front three, all you. Take it away.
Yeah, it'll be Weah, Pulisic, and I'm gonna go Balogun. You don't bring Balogun in to sit him on the bench in the first game.
Wow.
Yeah.
I thought Sargent would be the guy for sure for you.
I think Balogun gets a start.
But Balogun wasn't even supposed to be. Brian White was supposed to, from what we understand, was supposed to be the guy.
But we've also seen Pochettino he's already set a precedent before of calling in guys as replacement guys, and then they start. So for me, that's of course he wasn't on the initial roster, but once you bring him in, you're committed to. You're not going to bring him from Monaco to go, hey, I just want to see you in training, and you're not going to start. This was the guy who's starting, who was pronounced the king at number 9 with a Pepe who's healthy and playing, and he's performed. So I would expect him to start in this game.
Out of curiosity, I'm trying to remember now. Everybody can help me, whether in the comments or here with you two or our producers. How many games did Pulisic, Sargent, and Weah start together at the World Cup in 2022?
Would you say?
How many games did they start together in the World Cup in 2022?
2, maybe.
Wales?
Wales and in Iran, because you remember
Sargent got hurt,
Iran, and he got hurt.
So there's a nice history of playing in high pressure situations together. I'm just saying that's something to keep in mind, that these guys have to play in a World Cup is. It's the highest of pressure situation. So to have that kind of rapport, I think it's important. But I do want to see Balogun. I just feel like Sargent.
Well, I think this is another.
You got to roll him out.
I think this is important too. As a striker who now has this mental block with the national team, right? It's front and center. I haven't scored in 6 years with the national team. No matter how many games you've played, it's been 6 years, and you've had opportunities to go out there and play, and it hasn't worked. Sometimes it's better to take the pressure off coming in off the bench. So let's say Balogun starts, and whether he plays 60 or 75, and we've also seen Pochettino make these substitutions too late. So whether that's by design of saying, I'm going to push these guys, even though I'd probably make the sub earlier, I'm going to push them and see how they deal with adversity, how they deal with fatigue, how mentally sharp are they when the game starts to get stretched. So maybe this is an opportunity to bring in Josh Sargent, a little bit less pressure as a substitute, where you're coming in just to run hard, impact the game as a substitute, bring energy to the game. But maybe that is a better job for him. When you're talking about World Cup, how can he come into the game and change it? And this is another look instead of being the starting striker. So maybe that's another way to perspective to look at it.
No, I love that. So let's get into the details here a little bit, because this is a window that has been noted by Mauricio Pochettino. This is the last time he's looking at guys. Man, I feel like these games, there should be an intensity to the way that we perform from some of our quote unquote fringe players that maybe we haven't seen. Not to say it wasn't evident or that feeling wasn't there for the Gold Cup, but this is it, or it feels like this is it based on what we've heard. We'll obviously have to wait and see. What are the details then? Taking that into consideration and leaning on your experience as a coach, Big Tones, especially at the youth national team level, you're bringing guys in, you're evaluating them before you have to start making big decisions, like before you're going to take guys to the U20 World Cup or whatever it may be. What are the final pieces that you need to see in a game like this? For me, the result is secondary. Yes, we want to win. That goes without saying. But there are certain elements that you need to see to make sure that you can kind of validate the decisions that you are in terms of team building. We've talked about this before, but now as we're getting kind of super specific, what kind of elements do you think that you would be looking for at this final hour to start really leaning towards one player or another?
Yeah, I think it's pretty simple, right? First, are you the player that I brought in that I thought that I brought in, right? I brought you in for a certain reason. You have every guy's got X, Y, and Z that they do that the coach like, right? So show me those things, right? Reinforce my thought on you, and then show me that you got some stones. I wouldn't say anything, or I wouldn't say that much in this camp. If you don't know by now, if you haven't heard Pochettino said, whether you believe him or not, that this is the last camp we're going to experiment in, next camp in October, this is when I'm going to bring everyone in, I'm bringing these guys in for a certain reason, then you're living under a rock, right? If you don't understand that you're less than a year away from a World Cup and that you're a fringe player, you're living under a rock, or you're not evaluating yourself in the way that you probably should be for some of these guys. And I'm sure that they all are. Like it almost pains me when you say before we should see like the fight and determination. Of course we should. I mean, it's like the bare minimum when you come into camp. And that's why it frustrates me. Show me the rest of the stuff. I'm going to the game thinking, okay, everyone's going to bust their ass in this game, right? We're going to get 100% at everyone. Show me those things that I just talked about. Charlie, I brought you in because you're fast, you run in behind players, you take up good spots. When you get an opportunity, you finish. You make two center backs know every game that they're in a game, whether you play well or not, that they're in a game that they got to do. Okay, show me all of those qualities today. That's it. What else can I ask from you? That's why I brought you here. I really can't ask you to do anything. I can't ask you to play center back and win duels, right? It's not what I brought you here for. So give me what I brought you here for. And because if you don't start with that, if they don't give you that, you really don't have a chance to play. Then I'm saying, Coach, you were wrong about me, right?
Right.
You're wrong about that doesn't mean you're not going to miss a chance, or you're not going to miss a tackle. Like all those things happen. We know. But give me the qualities that I thought you had before I brought you in here.
No, I love that. That's a great description. What's funny for me, and as I evolved as a player, I always would bring that energy 100 miles an hour all the time. And it's when I learned how to still bring that, of course, it's a non-negotiable, but to be smarter with that energy, I guess, Chuck, right? Where you're so excited, this is your big chance, but how can you stay really steady in those moments so that you can go out and play as smart and as efficiently and within the parameters of how your coach wants to play as possible, without trying to ultimately try too hard, right? Because sometimes when you're trying too hard to be what you think other people want, or the version of yourself that you want to be, then you start to make mistakes, and then it can snowball, and there's a huge psychological component to what these players are walking into as well.
The number one thing, and you both will agree, it's reps. It's reps, opportunities. How many times will your coach give you the chance to go out and play, or rectify for maybe a substitution appearance that didn't go so well? Because I go back to some of my first caps, and my first international goal was away against Trinidad in a World Cup qualifier, and I remember being super, super excited, saying, "Finally, it went." But my first cap against China in San Jose, I remember it being a little too fast. I didn't feel comfortable. I never felt like I was being proactive. I felt like I was very reactive. And, part of me was thinking, oh my God, there's Lennon Donovan. I'm DeMarcus Beasley and Clint. I'm playing with these guys. You're still in that vibe. And then I go to my first start, which was against Sweden in January camp. And it didn't go well. I never felt like in control again. But Bob still kept giving me the opportunity because I was performing for my club team, and it's very similar to Josh Sargent in the sense that I was scoring goals with my club team. I was settled in, but with the national team, it still hadn't clicked yet. And it took Confederations Cup to come off the bench, play, didn't go well against Italy. Training, I get locked in, and then it finally clicked for me against Egypt, where the pressure was, hey, we're not going to win. We're not going to go through. It felt like a throwaway game in a sense. Go out and perform. And I took it as, I got to go out and make the most of this chance. This is my chance to really show. And that's when it worked for me. And then we somehow got out of that group of death. So for me, again, I think it's just how many times will Pochettino give a guy the chance
to get those reps,
to make it work, right? To get that rep. But I was also 23 years old. I'm not 30 or 32 or, so I think that there are scenarios where hey, man, this guy has potential. Can he fulfill it? Versus we've seen a guy at his max level, both club and country, and that's probably kind of as good as it's going to get.
Well, given that, let's throw up our projected 11 that our producers put together. And when we look at this team, it looks and feels pretty similar to what we saw over the summer. I mean, I guess not. I mean, our front three is going to be completely different. But I guess maybe I should reframe it like this. In terms, which players do you feel like have the most to gain? Like now, for me, I'll go first. Diego Luna. Now he's there. He's got Pulisic off of his left shoulder potentially. He's got Sargent and Balogun up top. If he wants to hit the big switch, he's got Tim Weah on the other side. He got Tyler Adams behind him. I mean, he's got a lot of those. Now let's see what that looks like, right? We want to see you in these pockets of space. How do you unlock our attack, and how do you fit in with these other guys? I know that he had his kind of coming out party at the Nations League, so it's not an unknown quantity. But to Chuck's point, now he's gotten more reps. There should be more of a comfort level, and his confidence should be better wearing the shirt. So I'm very curious to see how he performs or starts to continue to build momentum for his case as to why he should be included. So
what's the question? Who has the most to gain?
Well, yeah, the question, like who do you want to see? I mean, who has the most to gain? Because I like the reps part of it. Like Arston is getting another guy who, like, okay, we didn't expect you to be this far down, through at this point, still involved with the team, but here you are.
Yeah, but can you keep catching up? Can you keep
right.
yourself? Right.
Yeah, exactly right.
I would think from that lineup that we just put up, my eyeball immediately goes to Josh Sargent, right? Because there's such a question at the number 9 position. If it's Balogun, if you had Balogun in there, I would say him as well, right? That he would be the other guy. So it's those two guys that immediately come to mind that have to come into this camp, and somebody's got to put a stamp on the number 9. Someone has to. I feel like Matt Freese, for now, has put the stamp on the goalkeeping position, right? Based on his performance. I still think Matt Turner is going to have a say, and we'll likely see him next camp as well. And those two guys will battle it out until the end, or whenever Pochettino says, I'm making my decision. But I still think the number 9 position is one of the most up in the air positions on the field.
All right, so we put a poll up here on the YouTubes about who should start for the U.S. in this game. Balogun leading the poll, 57% to 34%. Rafa says Matt Freese has the most to gain as long as he doesn't make any big mistakes. You think he's got the number 1 locked down. Chuck, for you, same question, kind of using your rhetoric in terms of reps and who can really settle in and kind of take this moment with both hands.
Well, in part of what Tony said, I 100% agree that the number 9 needs to come to fruition. Whoever that player is, that needs to be stamped. And the closer we get to the next summer, I mean, you don't want to be in that position of being, man, come March next year, we still don't know who the best 9 is for this group. I'm telling you right now, that is a very bad situation to be in. But in terms of actual players, I think Diego Luna is one of those players in this camp. I think, again, it's Max Arsene. We know Anthony Robinson is the best left back, and it's not even a question.
Right.
But can Max Arsene continue to be a better defender? We know he can attack. He can get forward. We've seen him score goals and create space and not be afraid to take people one-on-one. But at the international level, you need to defend first. So positioning, how good is he at delaying, making it predictable? Those are things he really has to improve in. 1v1 defending at the international level, that is key. And that's where he's struggled. So can he get better there? But Luna, Berhalter had a good Gold Cup. This is a whole nother kettle of fish. South Korea and Japan, that's not, we're not talking about Panama. We're not talking about, Guatemala. These are top opponents in world football. So I think when we're looking at individuals, for me, it's Luna, Berhalter, Arfsen, Matt Freese. But the number 9 is still extremely important in this camp.
Yeah, no. That's a great point. And obviously we'll be looking at that. See who starts first and foremost. And then secondly, how do they perform and who's around them? Lots of questions. Okay, let's get into prediction time here to tie up the show before we send everybody on their way as we get excited. And as a reminder, we have a live watch along. So come back and join us on Saturday for that. We'll have our post-game show as well. It should be a lot of fun. So yeah, you need to be here with us. That's first and foremost. We also have Matt Turner on Morning Footy tomorrow. So I know he's not in camp, but I'm sure he's got a lot to say about how everything's been going since he's returned to the New England Revolution. So check out Morning Footy tomorrow on the Golazo Network. Let's get into predictions. I think what's interesting, and it's been fun to kind of explore this as we hear more about Carlo Ancelotti in Brazil and we hear from John Shin about South Korea. Everybody's, at least the teams we're talking about today, kind of feeling meh about their situation. And I think it's because there might not be an established identity yet under these particular coaches with this particular group of players. And I think the U.S. falls into that as well, especially because we're continuing to tinker and not allowing that to necessarily build as of yet. Okay, so because of that, I think the U.S. have a good chance to, and this is without South Korea having some of their more talented playmakers, in Heung-min in particular. But can we take advantage of that with the guys that we do have that do know how to, not say play, but have played together in some big games under Mauricio Pochettino, still giving them direction with a group that's been around him now for most of the players. I think this is an opportunity for us to go out and get a result, manage a game. So 1-0 didn't seem as fun. That's what John Shin said. It's going to be, could be tight, could be whatever, but I'm hoping that we have a nice solid 2-0 win.
I'll tell you
that's
Jimmy,
what I'm hoping.
I'm going to stop you right there. If this is 1-0, I'm going to be extremely disappointed. And the reason why, Tony, is because that means Pochettino said, guys, I just want us to be disciplined and defend and be organized. And for me,
defense wins championships, Chuck.
No.
Come on.
I want to see them play.
What do you want to hear?
Try and create, because we're going to be looking back at that Switzerland friendly and go, oh, that's PTSD for these guys. They got to just go out there and try and play safe and be predictable and defend and let that be the priority. And for me, that's not playing the game. That's trying not to lose or trying not to get embarrassed. I want to see them running, going at. If this is the group that you called, then let them go and attack. Be free. And if they get exposed, they get exposed. Right? That's the whole point of bringing these guys in.
Until Davies Charlie kills them after the game for not having more defensive discipline, which I actually have plenty of time for. Meola Tony, what do you say on this?
I'm Charlie's going to be Davies Charlie is going to be really, really upset with me. I'm going to go 1-1, but I do want to see the things that he talked about. I do want to see them have a little bit of freedom and go forward and attack and create opportunities. But I with both teams missing star players, especially in the attacking part of things, I don't see like a high scoring game in this one. But I mean, who knows? It's a friendly, right? We'll see.
Give me a 3-2.
I'm assuming
you want a 3-2. Listen, there is.
I'll take it. Yeah, I'll take a 3-2. It means we opened it up, but I just don't know that we'll get it in this game.
I see Stray Catnip says 5-2. I appreciate that. And he says Sargent scores. I do want Josh Sargent to score. I just want that narrative to be over and done. And I'm hopeful that he can continue this good form that he's in and can hit the back of the net. That would be nice and refreshing.
Who doesn't want him to score?
No, of course. But I'm just saying, like, the more that exists, it just brings more attention to something that he has only played 220 minutes since the 2022 World Cup. He hasn't really had this nice long stretch of being the guy. So if he can start, hit the back of the net, let's just move on, and that way he can keep looking forward. I still think he's going to make the team. I said that a long time ago. So we'll see. Anyway, okay. So Chuck, what was yours? You said 3-2. You said 3-2.
Yeah, well, again, you want these guys to be really properly tested, then you're going to say play with freedom. I want us to throw numbers forward. I want us to try and generate chances. If you're playing with Sargent or you're playing with Balogun, they need service. You can't say, hey, again, whoever the 9 is, which was the problem under Berhalter. You're on an island. Try and make something. You're on an island.
You're getting 7 touches a half.
You know that's not going to work. So I want to see them taking chances, taking risks. Now that doesn't mean everyone stays at half field and you say, "Hey, Tim Reen, I want you in the opponent's half, and you're on an island, and now you're having to defend whether it's guys like Lee Kang-in or Son Heung-min, whoever it is, one-on-one in open space, he's cooked. I understand that. But at the same time, don't sit there and say, guys, we're going to defend everyone in their own box, have it be predictable. Let's not get embarrassed out there, and everyone's playing safe. How does that?
No, you're not going to learn anything. You're right.
Forward, right? We're not going to learn jack. Right. So for me, get out, play 1v1. Go out into those wide areas in the channels and see who can fight for balls, who can beat guys, who's confident on the dribble, who's not afraid to take those chances. That's what I would like to see. That's what I'm saying.
Listen, my favorite matchup of this whole game is Son versus Dest. I absolutely cannot wait for it. It is going to be fantastic, and that's going to be a real test for Dest. But obviously, Dest can take advantage of Son.
What about Lee Kang-in versus Arsene?
That's a good one too. But and Lee Kang-in is I mean, he shows his quality with PSG all the time. But Son versus Dest.
That's a test.
It's a test. It's a test. Yeah. It's a test. So that's going to be an area that everybody should keep an eye on. All right. That's it. I'm calling it a show, but we got one more reminder, or I'm going to remind you. Join us again here on Saturday at 4:45 p.m. Eastern, 1:45 p.m. Pacific for our live watch along for the U.S. versus South Korea. We'll do a little 15 to 20-minute pregame show. We'll watch the game together, and then we'll get right into a really fun postgame show like we always do, and should be a lot of fun. So come back and join us for that here on the Gloss America YouTube channel. And that's it. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you. Call What You Want is done. Thank you to John Shin, Chuck, Big Tones, all of our producers, and everybody watching. We can't have this community without you. All right, we'll see you on Saturday. That's like 48 hours. We'll see you soon. Later.
Watch along.
Come on. It's been a while.